The gate.
We're live.
You ready to rock?
Let's do this.
Our timer. Roll the intro. Hello and welcome to Wi-Fi Optional, a weekly tech show where we talk tech so you don't have to. This is episode 14, recorded Monday, February 22nd, 2016. I'm Jason, and always with me is my partner in crime, Mr. Rukshan. How are you doing, sir?
I think we went back in time there for a little bit.
I was looking at an article at 12 minutes. And game over.
So I hear the latest news that you got a deer the other day.
Yeah, the hard way. I didn't get it. I was in the car, but my wife decided to go late season hunting and make a $5,000 repair on her car happen. So that was quite.
That's awesome.
Yes, always fun. Well, let's get things rolling here and let's ping the news.
First in the news, hackers demand $3 million in Bitcoin ransom from hospital to unlock vital files. The Hollywood Presbyterian Medical Center, located in the heart of Los Angeles, is now, or they were, dealing with hackers who reportedly demanded over 9,000 Bitcoins, which equates to roughly $3.6 million to release the encryption keys to the computer system that holds patients' data, X-ray scans, CT scans, and crucial lab work. How the story ended was they did negotiate, and the hospital ended up paying $17,000 and got their systems unlocked, or they got the key to unlock the systems. For a while there, while the systems were locked, they were actually using fax machines to fax patient data back and forth between labs and other hospitals in the area.
Yeah, it reminds me of we just watched the Independence Day was on TV the other day, and seeing the movie where they finally use telegraphs and
right.
Morse and communicate. Go back 50 years to defeat the technology problems. But the weird thing about this is, looking at the story, it's something that's happening more and more nowadays. But it's funny that somebody comes out of the box asking for 3.6 million, and they only get 17,000. Is this a story of hacking or the worst negotiating skills in the history of the internet?
Probably really bad negotiating skills. But then the other side of the story is, if you're a hospital and if you're running critical patient data, and the computer system is actually your day-to-day lifeline, why would you not have some kind of a disaster preparedness plan? You could be running virtual machines, and if something happened, dump the virtual machine, fire up a new one. There's a plethora of different things that you can do. So a couple of things: either they had really bad negotiating skills, and the hospital needed a revamp on their IT system.
Yeah, exactly. The interesting scope about this is my wife's in the medical field, and she actually brought this to my attention the other day. So the fact that something like this can kind of, reach the scope of somebody who's not the most, technology plugged in person in the world is kind of interesting too as well. So second topic, Twitter hires longtime Apple PR executive Natalie Karras. And this is interesting because she was actually the one who actually saw a lot of the products come through for Apple. So Twitter has brought on Natalie Karras, former Apple PR exec, who helped launch products from the Apple iPod all the way up to the Apple Watch, not the iWatch, like I said a few weeks ago, as the new vice president of global communications. It's a big hire for Twitter, especially at a time when its biggest challenge remains explaining what the company's purpose actually is. Karras will replace Gabriel Stricker, who left in July and is now at Google. So it's kind of the old Silicon Valley / technology card shuffle that's been going on lately, where people go into different companies.
And I think Twitter really needs this, because we talked about this last week too. They're kind of plateaued, and I think they're kind of throwing whatever they can out there to not necessarily to stay afloat. I mean, they got enough money to stay afloat for a while, but they have to come up with something new, something cutting edge to stay, ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and we talked about this a few weeks back. Is they have enough capital and enough money to, I think run for, it was some ridiculous amount, like 412 years or something like that. But like you said, finding that edge and that purpose is kind of why people are kind of leading away from investing in Twitter, is they don't really know where they're going. So it'd be kind of interesting to see if this brings any light to the subject.
Yeah, exactly. From one Silicon Valley tech giant to another, I should say, Apple is issuing an updated version of iOS 9.2.1 for users that updated their phones via iTunes and had the Error 53 issue. This update will restore phones bricked, quote unquote, or disabled by Error 53, and will prevent future iPhones that have had their home button or cable replaced by a third-party repair center from being disabled. Note that this is a patched version of iOS 9.2.1. And not a brand new version of iOS. Apple is currently facing a class action lawsuit over the Error 53 matter. The quick fix could help mitigate some of the suit's claim. Interesting to note that the update will not re-enable the Touch ID, but what it'll do is it won't actually break your phone. You can actually reuse the phone. This is interesting because a lot of people actually that had this issue went to Apple and they said, well, sorry, you got to pay $200 or $100, whatever it was, and get a new phone. Getting a new phone is not so much a big thing, but we have so much invested and embedded into these devices. Our entire lives are in there. You have a new phone, and now they say, well, yeah, you got to get a new phone, but we can't transfer anything, and that's a big thing. But it sounds like with this new patch, you won't have that Error 53 issue. But like you and I talked about, Jason, I don't think this really fixes anything, but they just removed the. It sounds like they just removed the flag in the firmware check.
Yeah, it's a really interesting move because they admitted that this was there, and that we talked before show it was a bug, quote unquote, even though they were able to fix it so quickly and know exactly what it was, but yet still didn't give up what they wanted to, and made it so that you still can't use third party, but it's not so much going to brick your phone, just that the function that the part applies does not work anymore. And the first thing when I saw this was class action suit, because like you said, all these people that now have had their phones replaced instead of actually physically having the phones working, or just the Touch ID not working, and having their access to their phones, are going to be pissed because, hey, we don't have our data, and I had to buy a new phone or get a replacement or whatever they had to do for no reason. And it's just really interesting too that it's only been a few times that I wish I had the actual stat. I just thought of it now, but how many times Apple has released a bug fix version of an iOS where it's not an updated version, it's just like a secondary version. The last one I can remember was there was something with a certain iPhone, like the iPhone 4, 4S or something like that they updated, and it was only like the Verizon version, like the CDMA version, that had the problem where they did the same thing where they updated a version of the OS without actually coming out with a new one. So it'll just be interesting to see how this plays out. And this was almost our discussion topic, but we've talked about it for 3 weeks now. So we figured we'd relegate it to the
I think hopefully we're at the tail end of it. So we'll see.
We'll see. Staying on the idea of tech again, of course, because this is what we talk about, but switching back to the cars, which we've also talked about in the past. Next year, the Swedish automaker Volvo will offer customers choices of buying cars with the pagan ritual in which that either drops the keys into their waiting cupped hands, but instead they'll use their phones to unlock their cars after downloading the Volvo app, of course. Volvo hasn't revealed much about how it works beyond the words Bluetooth, which is sure to raise eyebrows amongst those concerned about the risk of car hacking. Or those that love physical keys. And we talked about this before the show. Really kind of cool. I know there's a couple companies. I believe Hyundai has like their Blue Connect or whatever it is, where they have an app where you can start your car.
Blue Link.
Yeah, Blue Link. Thank you. So people have kind of done it, but not actually had it as a full blown option. But then we talked about going down the route of Bluetooth instead of something like NFC, where you're going to be close to your car to unlock it anyways, and it's a lot more secure than Bluetooth has been. just seems kind of odd. I don't know if it's rushed or just not a tech company doing tech.
It kind of is, and I wonder why they would try to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, because you can have a key fob in your pocket and you can have a push button start that uses NFC right now. So that base technology is already built into vehicles right now. So why would you not take advantage of that? Or does that mean that maybe because you're going to use your phone and that the NFC frequencies that they have, the NFC capability right now is a proprietary frequency that you can't have on the phone, or do we need a second chip? So it's kind of all up in the air, but it's kind of interesting to hear this, because a couple of weeks ago we briefly mentioned how we see the automobile industry becoming kind of a case, so to speak, for a cell phone. So your radio and your head unit all basically is controlled through your phone. And so Volvo takes the first jump, and it says, "Yep, we're going to do this next year." And then Jason, you found the another article from Samsung. It's called the Samsung Auto Connect Auto Dongle. It's from The Verge, where Samsung actually released an onboard diagnostics port dongle that you can plug into your phone, to your car, excuse me, and that'll actually give your vehicle a lot of the high-tech capabilities.
Yeah, and I talked about the very first of our Phoenix Rising episodes we had here a few weeks ago, where we brought the show back. I talked about actually I have a little case here, but the automatic dongle that I bought. And this kind of is pretty much the same thing, except it adds the LTE connection, which is interesting because the way the automatic works is it connects through your phone and kind of does the same thing. This won't require a phone, which will let you do a lot of things remotely. You can check things remotely through the web. You could be sitting at home and see your kid's car at school and see if it's got enough gas or anything like that. But like we talked,
also that's another subscription.
Exactly. It's another subscription. It's another, thing connected onto your, in this case, AT&T plan that would be taking data minutes. But the one thing that it doesn't have is, that I was thinking about as we were talking about this article is the ability. I don't know if the ODB2 port has the ability to start and stop cars or do anything like that, like the app would have that Volvo's coming out with. I don't know if that's a functionality that's just kind of walled gardened off from the ODB port, or if that's something that could actually be brought in the future, because that would be the killer app if you could add remote start to your car without actually having remote start. Because in the article it talks about the new cars of Volvo, and the part of the Samsung Connect is kind of to bring back the abilities to older cars, so you don't have to be somebody who has to buy a brand new $40,000 car to have all these functions. You could add the Samsung Connect to a 2005 Mitsubishi or something like that, and still have the same features that a lot of people are getting with the new cars as well.
Yeah, and then it's going in the direction of your phone actually now becomes a screen. Not that you really need it, but the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, you're going to have all these fancy features in your car. How are you going to control it? Well, they're going to go to the phone. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm gonna do some digging and see if there's if this specific dongle is available, and maybe find out a little more information.
It'll be really interesting. Yeah, so we kind of alluded earlier that the Air 53 almost made it to our discussion section, but the one topic we kind of kept talking about as we were getting the show prepared was the FBI. It started off with Apple getting from the FBI to ask to unlock the iPhone of the San Bernardino killer, or one of the San Bernardino killers. And now there's an article out that John McAfee from McAfee Antivirus, of course, says that they will do it for them, which is really an interesting play. And I don't know if it's a slap in Apple's face or just or a way to gain headlines themselves.
Well, there's a little bit of a caveat to that. So he's saying that he can break into this phone not by circumventing the existing security measures that Apple's put in place. He's claiming that he can break into the phone using social engineering. Excuse me. So for whatever reason, he claims that he has the ability to do it, and he's being very hush-hush about it. But except for he's going to need 3 weeks. He said, he said he needs 3 weeks to do it. And the other interesting part is he's also wanting to run for president. So is this a marketing gimmick?
Well, that's the thing. My whole thought behind this actual article, not getting into the big article or bigger project that we'll get into here, but is why, just why would you come out and say this? Why would you bring up the fact that you can do this? What is he going to gain, or what are they going to gain by saying this? Like I said, either A is trying to make a slap at Apple, which they're not direct competing, so why would you do that?
Right. Yeah.
And B is, you're going to bring attention to yourself. Hence your topic of he's running for president, so he wants to run for president. So this would be a great way to, get your name in the headlines and push your brand like this. So it doesn't make sense to me that why you would do it other than publicity.
But then to me at least, the most important line in this article is quote, "I would eat my shoe on the Neil Cavuto show if we could not break the encryption of the San Bernardino phone," end quote. So let's see, 3 weeks from now, we'll find out if somebody eats a shoe.
Rubber. Yeah, exactly. But getting into the bigger issue now, we didn't really talk about it too much about Apple getting their letter from the FBI asking them to break the phone, and I think it was more of a Apple kind of did as a response to the FBI, but I think it was more of a statement from Apple about what was actually going on and what a lot of things have gone on in the world today, where governments and other agencies and some, just people in general believe that, privacy doesn't get in the way of safety of citizens and safety of people of the world. And it's that balance, that scale we've talked about every week, where you have to give up some privacy to, have safety and is it security or conveniences that you want to have. And I personally just don't think it's worth it to put in a backdoor like they wanted to with the iOS software in order to break into this one person's phone and therefore, unleash Pandora's box of what could happen if that would ever hit the wild or hit, what I mean, where somebody else could reverse engineer and basically create a backdoor in anybody's software.
And that's the part that's really interesting to me, because I'm reading through the articles and I'm seeing both sides. I'm seeing people that support both sides. There's people that says, yes, we need to break in. And then, there's people that say, no, we don't. And the letter that they sent, the FBI sent, to me, it was worded extremely in a very creative way. They don't mention wanting to break into every single phone. They specifically mentioned this particular phone by this serial number. So they're narrowing their scope down to this one particular phone. But at the same time, there's really no way for Apple to go, I'm going to make a backdoor that only works with serial numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's kind of a one size fits all. So in a way, the letter makes it seem like, well, no, we don't want you to break into all phones. We just want you to break into this one particular phone right here. And that's what they make it seem like. And people are looking at that and going, well, wait a second. The FBI doesn't want to break into all phones. But what they don't realize is if you build one, you can actually use that skeleton key to get into everything. And that's the type of thing you want to avoid. And I'm all for getting the data from this phone. And I'm sure, the more data we can get, the more information we can get, and vice versa. And, you can kind of connect the dots. But at the same time, you want to get the data, but at what cost? If we break into this and then figure out, okay, now there's a backdoor, and is that going to be turned into an exploit? Are we going to be talking about that in 6 weeks? Oh, hey, that backdoor that they used that, and they just turned that into an exploit. Now you could be walking down the street and all of a sudden I can capture your information. Is that where this is going to go?
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to is I think everybody wants the same thing, but the two sides are looking at two different ways. Like you said, with it being a solo individual very controversial person or phone that this is involved with and want to get into that one phone. But like you said, if you get into the one phone, you kind of create a proof of concept, or like you said, a skeleton key that could get into, pretty much any iOS device or any iPhone, and then you open Pandora's box and cause all sorts of troubles. But it's just a bigger with everything nowadays, with encryption, with all of that, there's no way to create backdoors upon backdoors upon backdoors without leaving one of the doors, open to somebody that you don't want to get in at some point.
And that's just the thing. When you do create a backdoor, that in itself is a risk. I mean, you can lock it down as much as you want, but if you're going to lock it, 12 different ways, then why even have the backdoor?
I mean, going back to one of our other articles, the hospital article, no one knows really how that happened yet. But what if it was some sort of backdoor where, some mass database of medical files in the country used to, pull information or run stats, and somehow they found it could have been something as simple as that, where, thought, oh, this isn't going to cause any troubles.
Right. And it could be, like a backdoor that the vendor created for, troubleshooting.
Yep.
Hey, if this application ever went down, if there's an error, let's backdoor into this application so we can pull the data. Did somebody exploit that?
So yeah, it's one of those things that we'll never stop talking about, and we have ever since all the Snowden information came out how many years ago. But it's just one of those situations, like I said, where I don't know how to say it the best, but how it's a very controversial subject with the San Bernardino tragedy that happened, that the FBI can kind of tug on the heartstrings of people and make them think non-logically about something because you think with their heart and not with their head, and not realize what's actually happening.
Right. And I also found it interesting that as soon as that letter came out, Apple sent that cut and dry response saying this is what's going to happen, which they had to, because they were immediately being talked to by the FBI or referenced by the FBI. But I also found it interesting that Google took over 12 hours, because as soon as Apple came up with the response, everybody said, well, what's Google going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to support the FBI? Or are they going to support Apple? Where do they sit? But it was interesting that about 12 hours later, they pretty much they pretty much are on the side of Apple, but the way they approached it was kind of a much timid, much calmer way, saying, yeah, we probably should do that. Whereas Apple took a very cut and dry, rough approach. I don't know if that's Apple's way of, with everything that's been going on, like the 1970 bug and the Error 53 and all those strikes against Apple. If this was the moment that their PR department said, hey, you know what? As much as this is going to hurt us, we need to be tough, and we need to take a stand on it so we can kind of gain some points, or I don't know. It was very interesting to me when I started hearing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just wish you'd get in the mind of some people. I wish I knew what the FBI was what they actually thought the end game would be here. Apple would be like, oh sure, we'll just roll over and do this, and we'll brush it on the rug and never tell anybody, and just hope it never gets out. I don't know how Apple could ever ethically do that and think it's okay to. I don't know. It's just very, very odd story, but one of those ones that's gonna, like I said, keep popping up, different ways, time and time again.
Right, and then to add fuel to the fire, the FBI actually did reset the iCloud password, which kind of created another set of headaches for Apple, because Apple made it sound like that if they did not do that, they could have pulled some of the information out. But apparently they did change the password, and they found out that it recorded. They were able to pull the iCloud backup all the way to October 19th or some. Don't quote me on the date, but somewhere around that. But then since then they have no data. Now, does that mean that the guy just turned iCloud off? Did he just did not want anything backed up, or what's the story? So there's a little bit of mud being swung from one side to the other, because Apple's saying, well, you changed the password, and the FBI is like, well, we had to. So it's all I can say is the story is not going to be over. In we have a terrorist that is now a terroristic case that is now involved deeply involved with technology. So, is World War III going to be cyber war? I don't know.
Yes, we'll see. I think we're hitting our allotted time here. I don't want to keep rambling on and talking until the wee hours of the night with you, as much as we do on a normal basis. But I want to keep everybody up and listen to us ramble. So I think we better wrap up the show here. It's been an interesting foray back into the podcasting world for us in our 4th episode here. So just want to say thanks to Purple Planet for providing our music. You can check them out at purple-planet.com. And a very special thank you to the listeners of our show. And don't forget to subscribe down below. Beep, beep, beep. On YouTube here. You can also find us on iTunes for the audio only version.
You can also find the audio-only version on our website, wifioptional.com. Right underneath the video, I usually post the audio as well. So Jason does a good job ripping the audio. So
yep, we have it archived over at archive.org as well.
Oh, that's right, we do.
You can find it there as well if you search for us. And also, as usual, you can find us at our website at www.wifioptional.com, Wi-Fi Optional on Facebook and on Twitter, or drop us a line at info@wifioptional.com. From everyone here at Wi-Fi Optional, we'll see you next week.